Sup y'all, Manny here, along with my co-host Cinnamon the guinea pig. Say hello, Cinnamon. Hey Cinnamon, guess what I finally bought? That's right, a PS5. Yes, finally after 2 years, you could just walk to a store, see the PS5 on the shelf, and just buy it. Yes, Cinnamon, I concur. Anyways, the first game I got for my PS5 is Atomic Heart, a game that I've been hyped for since 2018. But is it any good? Well, Cinnamon, let's discuss. Atomic Heart was released on February 21st, 2023, and it was developed by Munfish, which this is their first game, so the fact that this game runs as smoothly as it does and doesn't have any game-breaking glitches like some other AAA games is very impressive. Now, it looks like this game has been in development since 2017. At least that's what I gathered from their first video on their YouTube page. Now, for me personally, I've been hyped for this game since 2018 when I saw this trailer. Man, it just gave me some strong BioShock vibes, and I love that because BioShock is one of my favorite games of all time. And yes, if you've seen any of the trailers or played this game at all, it is as clear as day that BioShock is the main inspiration for this game. But it's still different enough that it is its own thing. So yes, let's start with the story first, and I'll keep this spoiler free. Atomic Heart takes place in an alternate reality Soviet Union, aka Russia, in 1955, where they had a huge technology boom thanks to this thing called polymer. And honestly, that's all you have to know. I mean, think about it like vibranium is in Wakanda. So yeah, this Soviet Union here has already smart AI robots and something equivalent to the internet. So yeah, they're very advanced. So you play as Agent P3, who is called upon by scientist Dmitry Sechenov to go to Facility 3826, where a bunch of robots are going haywire and killing everybody. So it's up to P3 to investigate and find out why. Okay, that's all I'll say for the story, because if you're gonna play this game, that's part of the fun, is finding out what's going on. So you don't know who the villain is here, so you gotta figure that out. And one of the criticisms this game got was that it was too obvious who the villain was. The game is constantly pointing you to the direction of a certain character, but without spoiling it, there is a bit more to it than that. And it wasn't until towards the end of the game where it clicked, and I was like, wait a minute. But yes, I'll just leave it at that. No spoilers. Now, I gotta say, I really enjoyed this game's story. I am all about the single-player story-driven games. Having said that, one of the criticisms this game also gets is that the story is a bit convoluted, and with that, I do agree. That doesn't mean that the story is still not good here, it just could have been executed a bit better. Granted, BioShock's story was also a bit convoluted, and so was Infinite's. And don't even get me started with Metal Gear Solid, which is also one of my favorite games of all time, but man, that story, especially in Metal Gear Solid 4, yeah, it was a lot. But yeah, Atomic Heart doesn't have that many cutscenes, so most of the story is being told to you by your AI glove, Charles or Charles. There's also these emails you can read from workers, but it gets very tedious with so many computers and emails, and it's hard to tell which one of these are important. Like, who the f are these people in these emails? Not the best form of storytelling, but I give them credit for world building. The character of Larissa, which I had to look up because I didn't remember her name, she seems like a very interesting character, but you barely get to see her in the game. If she could have kept in contact with you throughout the game through the radio at least, that would have been more character development for her, and it would have been that much more impactful when she reaches the end of her journey. Now, the voice acting here is not bad. If anything, these actors did a great job with the dialogue they were given, and it is translated from Russian to American, so there was probably some issues in the translation, but to me, nothing really major that, was that bad. Performance-wise, the voice actors did a great job. Now, speaking of things that didn't translate well, P3 has a catchphrase that he uses all the time, which is crispy critters.
Crispy critters. Crispy critters.
Crispy critters! Yeah, I mean, I thought this was some kind of Russian slang, but apparently in the Russian version, he says pies, which does not sound any better. But no, this is not Russian slang. It's actually part of the storyline. If you are familiar with BioShock, the explanation for this catchphrase was nowhere near as impactful as the phrase "would you kindly" in that game. So honestly, they probably could have done without that crispy critters catchphrase. Actually, it looks like a lot of people had a problem with P3's personality, and it's probably because he's a big whiny dick for a good portion of the game. But I'm not gonna lie, he did grow on me. If anything, what bothered me most about P3 is that after he finds out about all the ungodly experiments these scientists are working on, he seems to be outraged and disgusted, rightfully so, to like less than a minute later being like, well, maybe it's not so bad after all. Like, come on, be more consistent. Now, gameplay wise, this is pretty much BioShock. From the shooting to the melee combat, it controls and feels great. And what a relief, because some of these gameplay videos, especially the early ones, the combat looked very stiff, and the enemies looked like bullet sponges. But I'm happy to report that's not the case. Swinging your melee weapon to take down enemies is very satisfying. And for your polymer plasmid-like attacks, you don't have to worry about refilling it like in BioShock. You can use it and just wait for it to cool down, and then you can use it again. Now, going back to that original gameplay trailer, it looks like this game was gonna be more of a survival horror game, where every bullet counts. When I first got my shotgun in this game, I barely had bullets for it, but by the time you progress past the first part of the game, you're gonna have plenty of ammo. Hell, there's a crafting system here that you could use to make more bullets for yourself, but I only used it like once. But yeah, this is most definitely an action game, especially towards the end, where you have an onslaught of enemies attacking you, and you have all these upgrades that you can combine with your weapons and your polymer attacks to wreak havoc on all your enemies. It's a blast. Oh, and I can't forget about the boss fights here. They're a lot of fun, and my god, do they have some great animation. Yeah man, this game as a whole has some amazing animation. And for these boss fights, they're not really bullet sponges, as you could exploit their weaknesses from electricity to fire or ice, etc. So it has the right amount of challenge and just a lot of fun. And yes, the Valerina twins are hot. Yes, the gameplay here I enjoyed very much. Now, in order to upgrade all your gear, you're gonna have to gather a bunch of parts by looting dead bodies and these file cabinets. But thankfully, you could just suck it all up like a vacuum. With your glove, Charles! It makes looting so much easier. Truly the best way to loot. Now, I guess you could say this game is open world-ish, because when you are outside in its world, you're pretty much free to explore. But the main story missions take place inside of buildings and underground bunkers and whatnot. Now, did I say you're free to explore Facility 3826 when you're out and about? Because no, you can't. The place is full of robots that will kill you, especially early on. And if you do kill them, they got these robots that repair them and they keep responding. And there's security cameras too. But eventually you'll have the ability to shut down all the robots and then you're free to explore. Now when you're out here, I do recommend that you find all the testing grounds. Like seriously, concentrate on this. Don't do the story missions yet, because the testing grounds have all the good upgrades. Now I am not gonna go into how to unlock these testing grounds. Once you're in there, you have to solve these environmental puzzles, which for the most part are not too hard, but could be very challenging. I personally do not like puzzles, but I was able to solve most of them. There was only one puzzle I couldn't solve for the life of me, so I had to look it up. But again, it's worth it. This game is not very long, so this will make sure you get the most out of the game with all the upgrades and adds more gameplay time. And I guess it's worth mentioning that when you're out in Facility 3826, there are cars you could drive, but they handle terribly and they suck. Literally, you crash like twice and the car blows up. But they're pretty effective in running over robots. But the map is not that big. You can't sprint in this game, but your character does walk pretty fast, and you could also upgrade his walking speed anyways. So you'll be able to get through the map just fine. Also, while exploring, I walked to this building right here, and to my surprise, the doors opened. And inside, there's a bunch of pictures of real people. I had to look up what this was because this was so random. But yeah, it's like a Hall of Fame for people who purchased the Founders Editions, which was available like 4 years ago. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Now, the learning curve to how all these game mechanics work here is a bit steep and kind of poorly explained. For example, you could add elemental attacks to your guns by adding a cartridge. It doesn't tell you that on PS5, you push down on the square button to pop up the menu here. Then you go to the bottom where it's a little square or whatever, and you hit R2, and then right there you can pick the weapon you want to put a cartridge to. But they don't explain that. There's a few other things here too they don't really explain, but whatever. Now, as for the graphics, this game looks fantastic. I'm not sure if my gameplay footage here does it justice, but it's pretty damn gorgeous. But for some reason here, I can't pop these balloons. Oh well. Game still looks pretty. Oh god, I feel like I'm all over the place with this review, but I gotta mention this. One thing I really love is that once you purchase an upgrade for like a weapon or something and you don't like it, you can return it and get all your materials back and use it towards something else. Now that is awesome. You have more room to experiment with the upgrades and whatnot. A great feature that should become a standard. Now, I did encounter a few glitches here, like my gun disappearing for a bit and me getting stuck on some debris where I had to reload my last save file. I don't have gameplay footage of that, but yeah, it happened. I also encountered this glitch. Yeah, I just kept falling for a very long time. There's the whole map from the bottom. Also, this game needs a New Game Plus feature. Come on, Munfish. Anyways, quick note here. As a joke, I used to write in the comments for Atomic Heart's official gameplay videos that it was a secret BioShock sequel. You know, since there's a rumor that there's a new BioShock game coming that hasn't been announced yet. Now, there's this part in this game that my jaw dropped. From the visuals to the music that started playing, I really thought my joke had come true, but it didn't. Turns out they were just paying homage. Anyways, to conclude this review, I really enjoyed this game. From its pretty damn amazing and beautiful graphics, to its constant 60 frames per second frame rate, to the awesome music by Mick Gordon, and even the licensed music is freaking great here too, to its just fun as hell gameplay, which is BioShock but modernized, to yes, even its story. Though you could argue that it was a bit sloppy in its execution, there is still a very interesting story here that I was very intrigued by. And I'm very much looking forward to the DLC and its sequel. Because after that ending that we got here, yeah, if there isn't a sequel, then yes, it will be very disappointing in all honesty. This game was so much fun, and the trophies were not that impossible to get, that I decided to go for the Platinum Trophy, which is very rare for me to do, and it was worth it. Had a blast. So with that, I give Atomic Heart on PS5 an 8 out of 10. Well, those are my thoughts on Atomic Heart. It's not perfect, it does have some flaws, but you could overlook him, or at least I did, and I still had a great time with this game, from its gameplay to its story, even though hopefully in the sequel or DLC they could flesh out the story a bit better. But other than that, yeah, I had a great time with this game. Thanks for the info, Cinnamon. And with that, this has been a review of Atomic Heart, just cuz.